Hey, Woodridge, I just wanted to give you an update on the way that things are looking for this weekend. And then also just wanted to give you a devotional, just something to kind of guide your thoughts for the day. So let's talk about the weekend first. As you probably could guess, we're not going to be meeting physically together on the campus of the church. And so we will do like we did last week, where we'll have the live stream going up at 10:50. So we encourage you and invite you all to watch and be a part of that. And we look forward to blessing you that way. We're going to continue our series in the parables. So the other thing that I'll ask you to do is to be thinking about those that are around you that might need some help and some assistance, specifically as we think of the elderly and those that are concerned about getting or those that the government is describing at-risk members of our community, and just find some ways that tangibly you can be a blessing to them. Let me encourage you to do that as well. I know that these are difficult times, they're even trying times, and that was what was leading me through the Psalms last night. And I was looking at Psalm 119:52. I was getting to the theme of comfort, because in a time like this, that's usually what people are looking for. And it got me thinking, what are the things that I go to when I'm looking for comfort? Now, some of this might sound weird, but when I have a cold, I actually like to eat Totino's pizzas. Specifically Totino's pepperoni pizzas. Those things are like $1.25. They're probably not that healthy at all, but I always find myself gravitating toward those things because when I have a cold, it feels good. Is there a food that you like to eat that so to speak helps your soul? And even the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. For me lately though, because I don't have a cold, I just have allergies. For me lately, it's been Bluebell's vanilla with cherries. That is probably the best ice cream that I think I've ever had. And the other day when I opened it up, I ate the last bit and I was like, we have a problem, because when I ran out, the comfort food was gone. Maybe even there's like a TV show or a movie that you like to go to that just kind of seems to restore the balance in the force, so to speak. I was thinking about that as well. This might date me a little bit, but the TV show Cheers always does that for me. I don't know about you, but you could be thinking about that. Maybe in a time like this, you would even think of a friend, somebody that is your go-to when you need comfort and you need encouragement. And in fact, as I bring up the idea or even the word friend, probably specific faces and names came to your mind, and that's good. Friends are awesome. Did you realize though that friends aren't always available? When I was looking in the Psalms last night, and specifically Psalm 119:52, it says, I remember, Lord, your ancient laws, and I find comfort in them. Think of the things that I was just talking about. What is it that brings me comfort? Totino's pizza, Bluebell ice cream. I can think of friends. I specifically think of my wife. She's the number one that God has given me. But when the psalmist was thinking about it, it says, I find comfort in your rules. And that just struck me as weird. It probably strikes you the same way as well. Rules we typically think of are kind of restricting, and they keep us from doing the kinds of things that we enjoy doing. But I think if we look at the Bible, we can see that in a lot of the commands that God is giving us, there's a lot of fun in them as well. And even though we're in a season that's disrupted, I don't want you to lose your sense of fun and adventure. I just want you to be smart in the way that you do it. So how can rules bring comfort, like Psalm 119:52 says? Well, if you're out on the highway, you probably like it when people follow the rules. I mean, what if they drove around and acted like there were no lanes? We have words for people like that. We usually yell them at them as they drive by us, right? Because they're putting our lives in danger. Rules can bring structure to our life, and structure is good. They set boundaries for our relationships that help to bless our relationships. And God's rules are, when you think about it, are designed to bring us closer to God. That's why God tells us the things that He does. So when the psalmist, there are times we would be isolated, maybe not always have a friend to talk to. But what we also know about God is always available. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning this morning. I just could not, just with everything going on, I could not go back to sleep. And I spent that time just talking to the Lord. And it was just everything that was on my heart. I just talked to God about it. And I have to admit, I found it really comforting. So how do God's rules bring us closer to God? And I'm glad that you asked that. So let me give you a couple of things that I was thinking about last night. Some of the rules that you see, for example, Deuteronomy 6:5, it says to love the Lord your God with your heart and your soul and your strength. Obviously, that's a rule that draws us directly closer to God. There are other rules, like remember the Sabbath. We see this in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 12. Some of us are experiencing this in ways that we haven't before because our life is, completely changed. You're not running around and to all the club sports and down to work for 15 hours that day. You're sitting at home for the first time in ways that you never have before. Some of you are looking at your spouse and going, who are you? Because you're not used to being together as much as you've been together here lately. But when you think about the Sabbath, Deuteronomy 5:12, the Sabbath was meant to slow us down. Just stop, rest, and make room for God in our lives because we can squeeze God out with our schedules. Other rules make us dependent on God. And what that means is that it draws us to a place where we're calling out to God for divine assistance and for strength to obey Him. And that's good. In Deuteronomy 16, it says to celebrate the Festival of Tabernacles. Notice that's a command. Celebrate. The Festival of Tabernacles, by the way, that was the time that the Jews celebrated the harvest, as well as it was a time when they would reflect on their wandering in the Sinai before they entered the Promised Land. It's like, stop what you're doing and celebrate the things that God has done. I don't know about you, I love to celebrate. And so, like I said before, not all the commands of God are these joy-kill kinds of things. They're not all about restrictions. It's about celebrating the good things that God has given us. Even in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 6, how does it start? Rejoice always. It's have fun and rejoice in God. The psalmist, when you think about it, in Psalm 119:52, it says, I remember your ancient laws. Or another way of saying it is, I remember your old laws, and I find comfort in them. Let me give you some examples that David Lamb, in a book of his a couple of years ago, called God Behaving Badly, great title, says, when you think about the way the Bible begins, before you get to the place where you see the restrictions, the don't do's, think of the things that God says to do. And He creates everything, and He says, hey, here's a lot of food. Go and enjoy it. I don't know about you, I'm a foodie. And so that's all that God would have to say, because as soon as I see the table is set, it's time to eat. It's not even time to talk for me, it's just time to eat. He says, eat the food that I have given you. Notice that there's comfort in that. Whether that's a Totino's pizza, I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying what I do, or maybe it's your favorite fruit, or maybe it's some good old Bluebell. You get the idea. Another command, and we talked about this on Sunday morning, is that God gives the man to the woman and the woman to the man. And He says, be fruitful and multiply. And this is the kind of intimacy that God created us for. And He says, go and enjoy this. Go and enjoy each other. We could think of more, but what I want you to see, and especially in a time like this, when we're looking for a place of comfort, the psalmist says that he goes to the laws of God. And then we start to look at the laws of God and we can see why. There is so much, in spite of the craziness around us, my friends, there is still so much for us to enjoy. So here's my word for you today. Go and enjoy it. We hope to see you as soon as possible. Until then, we're praying for you. And if you have any needs, reach out. We're here for you and we love you. God bless.